Challenges guide. In this guide I'll be taking you over the easiest and fastest way to complete your gambler challenges. Now, fair warning before to start this one, there's not a whole lot of skill involved in this and there is a whole lot of luck involved in it. However, I do have some very quick tips that might make your life a little bit easier. First challenge requires you to win 5 hands of poker. Now this one isn't too awfully difficult, but it does require a little bit of luck and there could be some strategy involved. If you're not familiar with poker at all, I'll leave a link in the description down below to a cheat sheet so you can see what exactly everything is. Explaining it in this video will be making this video way too long. That way you know the basics and what cards to go for. Now, my general strategy with this is actually pretty simple. What you want to do is you want to go for 2 things as you're playing this game, especially if you're not very familiar with how poker works like myself. What I personally like to do is I like to keep cards that are relatively close to each other. So for example, if I have a pair in my hands, I'll be a little bit more aggressive, because with that pair of cards you already have an advantage over everyone else. At least that's something that you can assume. Another example of a good set of cards is, for example, a 4 and a 5. With a 4 and a 5 you have an opportunity of getting a straight, which is a high tier kind of thing to get and is pretty much a guaranteed win. Another strategy that you could use if your cards aren't that great as you currently have in your hands, but are a bit higher, such like a king or an ace or something along that higher tier ballpark, is wait until the first 3 cards are drawn, because obviously there's a pretty high possibility that any of those high cards will get you a pair, and having a high tier kind of pair will give you a higher opportunity to win. If you have a 2, for example, it's not really worth it. You know, you kind of have to play around, get a feeling for the game. Overall, it's not that difficult, and you know, it just really comes down to luck. That's unfortunately the red line of these challenges. Challenge number 2 requires you to double down and win 5 times in Blackjack. Now, I could give you one big explanation on the nitty-gritty of stuff and strategies, but there's not really any strategy involved in this one. All you want to do is that as soon as you get your cards drawn, it's your turn. You want to press Y or triangle to double down, and then hope for the best, basically. That's literally what this challenge is. Get lucky 5 times and you can move on to the next one. Challenge number 3 requires you to win 3 games of Five Finger Fillet. Now, this one actually requires a bit of skill actually. Unlike all the others, you actually have to make an effort here. Simply head down to the Valentine Saloon where you can find what possibly is the easiest one to do. Essentially what Five Finger Fillet is basically a quick time event that you have to complete as quickly as possible against an AI opponent. The first 2 rounds are pretty doable. The 3rd round, however, is a little bit more difficult. But the way to get around that is actually pretty simple. All you want to do is basically sleep for an entire day, then come back to the exact same place, and then there should be the first guy who's sitting there waiting for you once again. If it happens to be that there is no one sitting at the table, what you want to do is you want to head out of the saloon and then walk for a few meters and come back again, and you'll be able to see the guy sitting there practicing his little knifing skills. Simply win 3 games, which are best of 3, and you will have completed the challenge. Challenge number 4 requires you to bust 1 poker opponent out of each location, which are in Flatneck Station, Saint Denis, and Valentine. Now again, use the exact same strategy as I was using earlier. Basically what you want to kind of try and do is kind of feel how the AI is responding. Some AI bluffs, some are a bit more sneaky with it, but typically what AI does is they start to bet and raise a lot when they have good cards. So that could be a good indication of when exactly they are going to basically shatter you with a very high tier set of cards. And overall it just kind of comes down to luck, because obviously AI can decide, hey, I don't have a lot of money, I might want to fold and play it a bit more safe, which is typically what happened. It happened to me, for example. Try to keep playing it smart and eventually you will get the win. Challenge number 5 is by far the most infuriating one out of the bunch, which requires you to win 3 rounds of Dominoes without drawing any tiles against 2 or fewer opponents. Now the location I picked for this one is by going to Emerald Ranch. There's always 2 gentlemen playing Dominoes at the train station, and it's also the easiest variation of Dominoes in the game. If you want more information on how to play Dominoes, links in the description to a very short and handy 2-minute tutorial explaining you everything that you need to know about that. Unfortunately, once again, you need luck for this one, but with the strategy that I have, I found that I was winning a lot more consistently versus just, hoping for the best. So first off, you probably want to know what a tile is. Now, tile is basically the things that you're throwing on the table, to put it very simply. And my general strategy for dominoes is that you want to make sure that if you have doubles, blanks, which is the ones that don't have any numbers on them, or tiles that you already have others from, to use those first. So for example, if you have 2 tiles with a 3 on them, try to place them as soon as you got rid of the doubles and the blanks, because that way you will keep opportunity, and that is basically the goal you should have for dominoes. Create future opportunities, because that is what dominoes all comes down to. Keep as many opportunities as possible. If you have a double, that means that you're eliminating opportunity. So try to stick with one golden rule. Make as many opportunities as possible. Try to look on the table on what exactly is on the table at that time. Try to think ahead, like, okay, if I place this 2 right here, on the other side of that 2 is a 3, and I already have a 3 still in my deck. So the next round, if the AI is putting it on the other side of the table, I still have an opportunity to put that 3 to use on the side of the table that I previously placed the tile in. I know it can be pretty confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it and you kind of get to use the strategy, then it becomes pretty easy actually. Challenge number 6 requires you to beat the blackjack dealer in every location, which is in Rhodes and Van Horn. But if you're in Van Horn, you would need to complete the short strangers mission first, or the blackjack won't spawn. Now, in order to beat the dealer, it's actually pretty simple. You have to get a higher amount of points than he will have. Again, it comes down to luck, but my general strategy with it is to kind of keep an eye on what you have. If you're in the like 17, 18 ballpark, it's a bit of a risk. 18, I would personally say don't risk it. 17, you possibly could, but in general, as soon as I have 18, I don't risk it. 17 is a possibility of doing so, but I wouldn't personally really risk it. I mean, you don't really have a lot to lose, you can always try again. You only have to beat in 1 round. As soon as you win 1 round, you can move on to the next location, so it shouldn't take you all that long. Challenge number 7 requires you to beat the 5 Finger Fillet player in every location, which is in Strawberry, Valentine, and Van Horn. This one is especially very easy, because you always start with the easiest guy, so it shouldn't be too much of a hassle, honestly, because again, the very first one is very easy to do. Challenge number 8 requires you to win 3 hands of blackjack with 3 hits or more. Now, first of all, a hit is when the dealer gives you a card. So in plain English, this means that the dealer would have to give you 3 cards or more, and then you have to win the round. Now, this one just comes down to sheer luck. The only way to go about this one, honestly, is by keep asking for cards, and eventually you'll win the round, and you have to repeat that 3 times. There's honestly no strategy involved into this one whatsoever. You just have to get lucky. Challenge number 9 requires you to win 3 games of dominoes in a row. Now, personally, I had a lot of luck with this one, mainly because I was using my strategy as well. So I don't know if it is completely idiot-proof, but unfortunately, again, this one really comes down to luck. I know, for example, my buddy Nas was having a very miserable time with this one, because it all comes down to being the first one with no tiles left. As soon as you do so, your opponent's points will be added up to each other, and that's the points you will get for it. Now, another thing that is very important to note is that you have to win 3 games and not 3 rounds in a row. So that means that you have to get a total of 60 points 3 times in a row. Just use the strategy that I provided earlier in the video, and good luck, literally. Challenge number 10 requires you to win 3 hands of poker in a row. Now, I personally feel that this one is a whole lot easier than challenge number 9, mainly because it is definitely a whole lot less long than a game of dominoes. A game of dominoes, I think, could be upwards of 10 minutes, and a hand of poker shouldn't take longer than 2 minutes, really, so that makes everything a whole lot easier, especially because you can use the skip button and skip everyone else's turn. And before you ask, folding will count as a loss. So essentially, you have to get lucky 3 hands in a row, and that's kind of it. I'm not a huge fan of these luck-based challenges as much as you are, but I hope that with the strategies that I have given you, it will at least be a little bit more bearable than just solely having to rely on luck. Once you beat challenges 1, 3, 7, and 10, you can make your way to the trapper, where a new set of reinforced gear is waiting for you to use. Congratulations, you are now the luckiest man in the Wild West. Please enjoy your wonderful rewards. And that brings us to the end of this challenge guide. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you end up finding this useful, make sure to leave it a like. Subscribe for much more challenge guides coming up very soon as well. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.